Let's talk about Cody Garbrandt. I don't think it's too crazy to say that he'll never recapture a title in the rest of his career, especially at 135 pounds. You can't deny that at one point in time, Cody Garbrandt was the best 135 pounder in the world, and I'm not gonna lie, I was not happy about it. I can't deny that I did like Dominick Cruz, even though at the time, he made the division pretty boring at 135 pounds. He was just too dominant, and there really weren't too many challengers coming up through the ranks, and it was not nearly as competitive as it is today. Then came along Cody Garbrandt, who shook things up and absolutely dominated Dominick Cruz. Cody was this young, undefeated kid who came in with a boxing style that was just way too much for Dominick Cruz to handle. Normally, Dominick Cruz's weird movement and footwork causes a lot of problems for people, but Cody Garbrandt had done his homework and understood where to find his angles and find his openings to just outbox Dominick Cruz for 5 full rounds and get the win. He was dancing around, finding his openings, and dropped Dominick Cruz a couple of times in a fight that was really one-sided. Something about the way Cody Garbrandt was throughout his time on The Ultimate Fighter just rubbed me the wrong way. He seemed kind of overly arrogant and cocky and just kind of like a bit of an asshole. Especially the way he was talking shit to the coaches on the other teams who happened to be TJ Dilashaw, his ex-teammate. He was constantly arguing with him, calling him a cheater and a snake, and even trying to fight him. It just seemed like he was this fresh new kid who wasn't paying respects to somebody who was an established UFC fighter. But then it turned out Cody was no joke and became the bantamweight champion. So the UFC capitalized on this drama that had already taken place and put the two against each other. And of course, things did not go Cody's way. TJ got an unforgettable TKO finish in the second round in their first fight, and after an immediate rematch the following year, TJ knocked him out again. TJ had made Cody look silly, and all that trash talking just seemed so stupid. But then the news broke that TJ had been juicing this whole time. He had been taking illegal banned substances like EPO and tested positive, completely tainting his career and stripping him of the title. So that means all those times that Cody called him a cheat and a steroid user, he was right. So I guess he wins, right? Well, no. Cody had now been knocked out 2 times, and it seemed like the straw that broke the camel's back, because Cody would go on a losing streak. After winning the title, he would go on to lose 4 out of his next 5 fights, and even went down to 125 pounds, where he was knocked out by Cody Garbrandt, where he would cut an insane amount of weight and looked super unhealthy. The worst part is, after those TJ Dilashaw fights, he seemed to have lost his chin because he'd be getting knocked out and TKO'd almost every outing. It also seems that Cody's style of fighting changed drastically after he won the title. If you compare his performances in the TJ fight to the Dominick Cruz fight, Cody seems much more emotional, throwing for the fences with big looping punches that he's almost praying to hit. And this is also leaving him open to take a lot more shots and is a lot more risky of a strategy. In the Dominick Cruz fights, he seems so precise and accurate with his punches. He was waiting for openings and creating angles with his movement rather than just relying on throwing fast and hard. His new thing seems to be all or nothing. I either knock someone out or get knocked out. And that leads us to now. He just got knocked out again at 125 pounds by Cody Garbrandt, and he's going back to the bantamweight division. The weight cut seemed like a terrible idea for him, and now he's kind of in no man's land. After only 4 losses, he's fallen out of the bantamweight rankings, and he couldn't get it done at 125 pounds. But he is scheduled for another fight, and this time it's against unranked Ronnie Yaya. And I really feel like this is a last chance for Cody Garbrandt. And I really feel like the UFC is handing him a silver platter with a bit of a journeyman who, if he can't beat him, he might be done. And this brings us to why I think it's impossible that Cody Garbrandt ever makes it back to recapturing the title. Although he's still young at 30 years old, the fact that he's fallen this far out of the rankings, it'll just be too much of a climb, but the UFC does keep him around because of the stardom that he once had. Cody really was such a star for the UFC at one point in time. He seemed to be on all the commercials and was a good speaker with a good look that the UFC really wanted to push. Unfortunately, his performances couldn't back up the level of stardom that he wanted, or that the UFC wanted, but you can't deny that at one point in time, he really was undeniable. Who's to say that maybe in a world where TJ wasn't cheating, maybe Cody could have won and things would be completely different. I somewhat worry that the style Cody adopted to swing for the fences, not really listen to his coaches, and go all balls to the wall, is similar to what we're starting to see with Iron Michael Chandler. He's even admitted that at times he stops listening to his corner and just tries to put on a show for the fans. And although it is super entertaining, we know that losses really hurt someone's career, as shown by Cody Garbrandt. Although Michael Chandler does seem to be winning, he's taking a lot of damage and really seems to open himself up to get hit. He also does present a really good image and is good in front of the camera, which is why they're promoting him the same way Cody Garbrandt was. So I'd hate for him to follow in the same footsteps that Cody Garbrandt has. In this imaginary scenario, I'm putting him up against Sean O'Malley. They of course had that weird stare down one time at the press conference, and I think it'd be a really cool matchup, except for the fact that Sean O'Malley is probably going to be fighting ranked opponents from here on out. Either way, this is an imaginary scenario, so it doesn't have to be that realistic. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, leave a like and subscribe for more content like this on a weekly basis.